All right, so let's get on to the astrology of the week. So we are currently in the shadow zone of our recently direct Venus. So Venus stopped in the sky last week to go direct, and she will be in the shadow zone until July 29th. So we have lots of time to integrate what you have learned about what you need to reconsider, all those Venusian ideals, right? Venus is our ability to attract people and resources. Venus is our ability to experience pleasure, love, connection, peace. And when she went backwards earlier this year, she had us really reconsider also going through Gemini, reconsidering, everything that had to do with relationships and our values, right? If you think back to May 13th, I'm sure that a lot of your values have changed since then. I mean, socially on a global scale, many people's values have changed since then. As Venus was going backwards and now is going forward and going through the shadow period, we get to integrate. We get to get in tune with all of the realizations that have come up, right? So now is the time to start doing. So getting out of your mind, working through your feelings and your heart so we can bring all of these realizations into our being so that you can speak your new truths. Oh, yes. So on Monday, June 29th, we have our second of 3 conjunctions of Jupiter and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So for this second conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto, the difference is that now they are both going backwards in the sky. Our first conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto happened on April 4th. Even though April 4th was just a few months ago, how the world has changed. When Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and Pluto, the energy of transformation, come together in the sky, all the Plutonian themes of transformation, of fear, of phobia, if you're looking at the dark side of Pluto. But if we look at the great side of Pluto, of new beginnings and Jupiter really expanding everything about that, oh my gosh, you can see, I've been talking about this in this middle of 2020 as the beginning of a revolution. This is going to probably reignite something, reignite some kind of closure. Maybe you didn't close something and start something new. Like whenever Jupiter and Pluto come together in the sky, think of this as new beginnings, whether you see this as a closing of an old chapter or a beginning of a new chapter. So we're just kind of in this holding pattern. I'm calling this release the floodgates. My task for you is to look at back in your calendar, look at anything you've created around April 4th and see what has changed, what needs letting go, what needs re-examination again. I know I keep on talking about re-examination with all of these retrograde planets. That is what we are being asked to do. All right, and then on Tuesday, June 30th, we have Sun Combust Mercury. Oh my gosh. So Sun Combust Mercury, it just means Sun conjunct Mercury, but during a Mercury retrograde. Mercury would be super close to the Earth, the closest at it, the closest to Earth at its orbit. And anytime it's a combust, I think of this as information overload, right? During a Mercury retrograde, our tech is already going wild. And so you can think of this as just like a power surge, right? But because Mercury is in Cancer, that we're going to have this emotional overload as well. So on Tuesday, June 30th, we are at the halfway point of Mercury retrograde. This signals the second half of the Mercury retrograde, where we get to kind of like think of the next steps. You've probably had some realizations of what needed to be healed in your life. So you've probably already come to the realization of what needs addressing, what needs nurturing. And so now at the halfway point, don't worry about starting on the work, but start making a plan. Cancer is about holding space for healing. So don't necessarily worry about like what you need to do at this time, but start making a plan of what you intend to do or what you intend or hope that will change as a result of your realizations. We also have our third eclipse coming up on July 4th or 5th. It is a full moon eclipse in Capricorn. I'm going to be doing an entirely new episode on that, so I will save that for later, but make sure it's on your calendar. Now, if you want an astrological calendar, a PDF, a printable calendar of all of the highlights that I talk about, all of these big shifts, we have in my Patreon. At the lowest level, you can get the each month a printable calendar. At the mid-level, if you're kind of a techie nerd person, you can get a downloadable link that you can use on your Google Calendar. So you can have all of these shifts at your fingertips. If you want the printable version, we are going to have 3 different time zones. We're going to have one for the Americas, one's for Europe, and one for Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So head over to patreon.com/The Savvy Luminary and become a patron and get your astro weather calendars. Well, I hope you enjoyed this long episode. I had a lot to teach you. I would love to hear your thoughts. And of course, you know, I love to hear your ratings and your reviews. Every time you rate a review on Apple Podcast or Stitcher, these reviews help this podcast get heard by more people. So your rating and review really helps me. I can't tell you enough. And if I read your review on this episode, I will send you a Savvy Luminary goodie bag. It has lots of fun things in there, and it's a great little canvas makeup bag that you can use, or a pencil bag you can put all your favorite things in. Anyway, until next week. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to The Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.